Good evening, esteemed guest of the Institute. My name is Sarah Murdoch, and tonight I'll be talking to you about the differences between tailoring techniques and styles. In particular, the differences between Italian, English, and German tailoring. For those of you that don't know, tailoring is a notoriously secretive trade. Finite details that when used together create a highly structured, almost sculptural garment. We received our introduction to this subject at the end of first year, making a pair of trousers, and progressed in second year, making a men's tailored jacket. So whilst we finished these garments to completion, this still felt like only a small taste of what was a significantly larger industry. Hence, my opportunistic deep dive into the history and techniques of tailoring. Let's start in history. So, the word tailor first appeared in the Oxford Dictionary in the year 1297, and is believed to be derived from the French word tailler, meaning to cut. In the early medieval period, a tailor's job was to make custom padded linen garments. As shape progressed in the early Renaissance period, the need for tailors arose as a profession. By the mid-18th century, we start to see the beginnings of the modern three-piece suit, consisting of a jacket, waistcoat, and pantaloons. And by the 19th century, England starts to pull ahead as the leader of men's fashion, and with the establishment of Savile Row, strongly centres themselves in the history of tailoring. The flamboyance of the earlier centuries died down, and English sensibilities took over. Think Mr. Darcy in Pride and Prejudice. Preferably the BBC series, but the movie will do if you must. Not for any costuming reasons, just quality life decisions. So whilst fashion trends were being headed by Henry Poole & Co., tailoring trends were being, Beau Brummel. Tailoring trends were being headed by Henry Poole & Co., the brand credited with the establishment of Savile Row, a brand that still stands to this day. English tailoring is heavily influenced by military uniform, strong, structured, and heavily canvassed. And whilst fashion trends changed, these principles remained pretty consistent. And there are some practical elements to the suit. The vents at the back of a jacket were to prevent it from crumpling up whilst riding horseback. The flaps over the pocket were to prevent mud from getting inside of them whilst out in the countryside. And that annoyingly small pocket you find just above the much larger, more useful pocket on the right-hand side of the body was a ticket pocket for when you were catching the train. But I digress on my subtly, not so subtle, suits were intended for the aristocracy, because now there were department stores for the middle class and second-hand markets for the lower. So, what were wealthy aristocrats going to do to differentiate themselves from the lowly commoners? One word: bespoke. Yes, bespoke tailoring was a thing prior to the 20th century, but it was all the rage at the beginning of the 20th century. For those wondering what's so special about bespoke, bespoke is truly one of a kind. It literally means that a garment is made to the shape and specifications of a client, and once completed, is never fully replicated. My apologies, sorry. It's never truly replicated, but times were changing, and we started to see the aristocrats being pushed out of their place as fashion icons. And with the introduction of the silver screen, we saw movie stars taking their place. This allowed the introduction of the Italian suit. In 1952, Italian brand Brioni introduced their Roman suit to the world, and in 1953, actor Gregory Peck wore one of these in the movie Roman Holiday. This allowed the Italian suit to become globally popular. It was significantly lighter and softer, a much-needed necessity for the hotter Italian climate. This brings us to modern times. You may have noticed that I haven't really touched on German history. Unfortunately, due to the dominance of Italian and German tailoring, I wasn't able to find much on Italian and English. I wasn't able to find much on the history of German tailoring. but the German silhouette is considered similar to the English silhouette, fitted, strong and structured. The English silhouette is strong and structured and heavily canvassed, with padded shoulders and often made of heavier fabrics more suited to the English climate. The Italian suit is often lighter and is the most fitted out of all. At least this is what every single fashion blogger says online. But they also say that due to the competition created by fast fashion, these are more like guidelines rather than sacrilege. This answer left me dissatisfied. Surely there are more differences than that. And that's where the two jackets beside me come into play. Throughout this process, I reached out to several tailors to see if any of them would be interested in being interviewed for my research. And after speaking with several of them, I decided the best way for me to note differences would be to make jackets under the guidance of different tailors. The jacket to my left, in the black and white pinstripe, I've been making with the guidance of an Italian-trained tailor. The jacket on my right, in the brown check, I've been making with the guidance of a German-trained tailor. Unfortunately, due to the lack of face-to-face contact, I was unable to make one with the guidance of an English-trained tailor. However, there are significant differences between these two already. One of the earliest differences I noticed was the use of damet in the jacket. Now, damet is a kind of fluffy padding that goes with the canvas, and no, canvas isn't just that thing you paint on. It's also a fabric that is used to create structural integrity inside a suit jacket. So in the German jacket, I used the 2 layers of canvas, one along the body and one across the chest, and then put a layer of damet over the chest canvas. In the Italian jacket, I just used the 2 layers of canvas, one along the body and one across the chest. The next difference I noticed was the construction time of the pocket. In the Italian jacket, I made the pocket to completion and then tacked the canvas in over the top. In the German jacket, I made up the canvas entirely, tacked it in place, and then cut through it to insert the pocket. A third difference I noticed was the pad stitching on the lapel. In the German jacket, it remained pretty similar to that of the chest. It was firm but not too tight and stayed about the same size. In the Italian jacket, it shrunk to about half the size of the stitching on the chest and became significantly firmer. I've left these jackets half completed, so you're able to see the difference that canvas makes in a jacket. But I'm sure if I'd finished them, I would have noticed many more differences between them. Sorry. I would have noticed more differences between them. But this is also a very small sample of what is a significantly larger industry. There are many factors that affect this, from common practice to training to self-taught. It's also costume versus fashion. I feel to gain a more accurate result, I would need to speak to more people and make many more to work out which differences are regional and which ones are common practice. But despite all the differences, there was one thing in common nearly everyone said. Most people said to always keep learning. Learn as many different ways as you possibly can, and then choose the best and apply them to your craft. This is what I intend to do. Thank you.